All right, let's talk about something most of us have, pay for every single month, but really hope we never ever have to use home insurance. And we're going to get right into the single biggest mistake people make, just assuming they know what their policy actually covers. And this quote, man, it just nails it, doesn't it? We all kind of think, hey, if something goes wrong with my house, I'm covered. But the reality, well, it's a lot more complicated. And that little misunderstanding can be an incredibly expensive one.
It's that one simple thought. If it breaks, insurance pays for it. That's exactly where all the trouble starts. That gap. The space between what we think we bought and what the policy actually says, that's what leads to denied claims and you having to pull out your wallet for huge repairs.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute most important thing to get straight. What is home insurance actually for? Because if you get this right, it changes everything about how you see your policy.
I want you to burn these two words into your brain: sudden and accidental. That's the core of it all. Your policy is for the unexpected, the catastrophe that comes out of nowhere. It is not a warranty for your aging roof or a maintenance fund for a faucet that's been dripping for 6 months. Think of it like an emergency brake for your car, not a scheduled oil change.
So, keeping that sudden and accidental idea front and center, let's look at how a policy is actually built. Pretty much every standard policy rests on 4 main parts. These are the building blocks of your protection.
First up, you've got dwelling coverage. Pretty simple. That protects the house itself, the walls, the roof, the structure. Next is personal property, which covers all your stuff inside. Then you have liability, and this one's huge. It protects you if someone gets hurt on your property. And finally, loss of use. This helps pay for a hotel or rental if your home becomes unlivable during repairs.
Okay, now this is where the fine print really starts to matter. Understanding the difference between what is and isn't covered is everything. It's the difference between peace of mind and a very, very expensive surprise.
So yeah, your policy is your best friend for those big, sudden events, a fire, a storm that knocks a tree onto your house, a pipe that just bursts out of nowhere. But here's the absolute crucial point. Coverage depends on the cause, not just the damage itself. An insurance company doesn't just see a water stain on your ceiling. They want to know why it's there. Was it a pipe that suddenly exploded? Probably covered. Was it from a slow leak you just never got around to fixing? Well, that's a whole different story.
And on the flip side, here's what's almost never on the table. Things that happen slowly over time. Normal wear and tear, an old roof that finally gives out, termites, that's all considered maintenance, and that's on you. And notice those 2 big ones at the bottom, flooding and earthquakes? Those are almost always excluded from a standard policy. You need totally separate insurance for those. To really make this stick, let's use one of the most common and misunderstood claims out there: roof damage. We'll even set it in a real-world place like Lancaster, California, where that intense desert sun and those high winds really put a roof to the test.
But first, hang on. Before we jump into the story, you need to know about 2 little acronyms that can make a massive difference in how much money you actually get: ACV and RC. Actual cash value, or ACV, basically gives you what your 15-year-old roof is worth today, which, let's be honest, isn't much. Replacement cost, or RC, gives you the money for a brand new roof at today's prices. The difference in the check you get can be thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, so picture it. One of those classic high desert windstorms just barrels through the area. You're inside, you can hear everything rattling and shaking.
The storm finally passes, and that's when you see it. A dark spot on the ceiling. Your roof, which is definitely getting up there in age, is now leaking. So you do what you're supposed to do. You call your insurance company. So the insurance adjuster comes out to take a look. They climb up on the roof, they look at the ceiling, and they see the same physical evidence we'd all see: an old roof with some damage and water getting in.
And boom! This right here is the whole lesson. If the adjuster finds that the windstorm ripped off shingles that were actually in pretty good shape for their age, the claim is probably covered. It was sudden and accidental. But if they find that the shingles were already cracked and brittle and basically falling apart from old age, and the wind was just the thing that finally pushed them over the edge, that claim will likely be denied. It's a maintenance issue. Same roof, same leak, totally different cause, and a completely different financial outcome for you.
So after hearing all that, you're probably thinking, okay, how do I make sure I don't get caught in that trap? Well, the good news is you don't have to become an insurance expert. You just need to know the right questions to ask your agent before you have a problem.
And listen, these aren't just some casual things to ask. The answers to these questions literally define the real-world value of the policy that you're paying for every single month.
Seriously, pull out your phone right now and take a picture of this screen. These are your homework. Call your agent and ask, is my house covered at replacement cost or ACV? That's number one. Then ask, how specifically do you guys handle roof claims? Some companies have really specific rules just for roofs. Is sewer backup covered? Because that is a common and very messy exclusion. Knowing the answers to these questions now is what separates a smart, prepared homeowner from someone who's about to get a very painful lesson in fine print.
You know, at the end of the day, that's what this is really all about. The point here isn't to make you scared of all the things that could go wrong. It's to give you clarity, to empower you, so you can make sure the protection you think you have is the protection you actually have. Because ultimately, the best insurance policy you can possibly have is simply understanding the one you're already paying for. That knowledge, right there, is your real protection. It's working quietly in the background, making absolutely sure that a small problem doesn't turn into a huge, expensive, life-changing disaster.